Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at something I know a lot of you have been asking about, artificial intelligence. And we're not just going to scratch the surface. We're going all the way back to the beginning.
It really is fascinating how AI is something that a lot of people think is a pretty new thing, but you can trace these ideas way back.
Yeah, when you think about it, even those ancient myths like Talos, the giant bronze automaton,
It makes you wonder.
defending Crete, like where did that idea even come from, right? What sparked that?
Well, it seems like humans have always been fascinated by the idea of creating artificial beings, probably because it makes us think about the nature of intelligence itself.
That's a great point.
And even way back in the 17th century, philosophers like Descartes and Leibniz were already thinking about, could machines actually replicate human thought?
Yeah, Leibniz even had that idea of a calculus ratiocinator, like a machine that could solve problems systematically.
Right.
Kind of like a very early computer, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to put it. For sure, it was a pretty revolutionary idea for the time. But to really get to the birth of AI, we need to fast forward a bit
Okay.
to the 19th and 20th centuries.
So more recent history.
More recent, yeah, when all these breakthroughs in mathematics and logic happened, and that's what really laid the foundation for the computers we have today.
So that's where Alan Turing comes in, right?
Exactly.
He's like a legendary figure in AI.
Absolutely. I mean, he's often called the father of AI, and back in 1936, he came up with this concept of a universal machine.
Wow, 1936. That's,
That was a while ago.
yeah.
But basically, this was like a theoretical machine that could do any computation you could think of. So it was a big deal, a major step towards the computers we all use today.
Wow, that's incredible. And of course, there's the famous Turing test.
Oh, yeah, the Turing test,
The
right?
one that's supposed to figure out if a machine can actually act intelligently, just like a human.
Yeah, it's like, can you tell the difference?
Right. It's so interesting that he was already thinking about these big questions about intelligence, like how do you even measure it?
It's still debated today, that question of what true intelligence actually is in a machine. But the Turing test was proposed in 1950, and it really makes us think, what does it actually take for a machine to seem human?
Beyond just doing simple tasks.
It's about the nuances of how we communicate.
So, okay, we've got these ancient myths, we've got philosophers pondering this stuff, and then all these huge leaps in math and logic. But was there a specific moment when AI actually became like an official field of study?
Well, most people point to the 1950s as the official birth of AI. And there was this really important event, the Dartmouth Conference. It happened in 1956.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it was organized by all these leading figures, including John McCarthy. He's the guy who actually coined the term artificial intelligence.
Oh, wow. So like the name itself comes from that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at that conference, they basically set out this research agenda for AI. And it really created a wave of optimism about AI. People thought, hey, maybe we can actually create machines that think like humans.
I bet there was so much excitement.
Oh, for sure.
What were some of those first AI programs that came out of that period? Like, what were they working on?
Well, there's the Logic Theorist. That one was super cool. It was created by Alan Newell and Herbert Simon, and it could actually prove mathematical theorems.
Whoa. So they were already doing some really complex stuff.
Yeah, it showed that there was real potential in symbolic reasoning with AI.
I see.
What else?
Oh, and then there was Eliza.
Eliza, that sounds familiar.
This was like an early chatbot.
Oh, right.
It was developed by Joseph Weizenbaum, and it used pattern matching to make it seem like you were having a conversation with a real person.
I remember reading about that. Some people were actually fooled by it.
Oh, yeah. It could be pretty convincing. It's amazing to think how much they were able to do with the limited technology they had back then. But I know from reading the transcript that, it hasn't all been smooth sailing for AI. There were those AI winters you mentioned earlier.
Ah, yes, the AI winters.
What happened there?
Well, the history of AI has these periods of huge progress, but then they're followed by disillusionment. And that often leads to less funding, which is what we call the AI winters.
So the first one was in the 70s and 80s.
That's right. You see, back then, those early AI systems just couldn't live up to all the hype.
So what was holding them back? Were there specific limitations?
Well, in theory, these early systems were really promising, but when you tried to apply them to the real world,
They just couldn't handle it.
yeah, they weren't good at dealing with all the unexpected stuff that happens in real life. They couldn't adapt to new information. They couldn't learn from their mistakes like humans can.
So after this first AI winter, did research just stop? Like, did everyone give up?
Oh, not at all. Things slowed down, but people kept working. They came up with new approaches and started focusing more on like practical stuff.
So, Les, can we make a machine that can think like a human and more? Can we make a machine that's really good at a specific thing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's when we saw the rise of expert systems.
Okay, expert systems. Tell me more.
Well, the idea was to create AI that could mimic human experts, but not in everything, just in very specific areas. Like, imagine a system that could diagnose diseases or help put together complex machines.
So instead of trying to build one AI that could do it all, they were focusing on making lots of specialized AIs, each one really good at its own thing.
Right, exactly. And there were some pretty successful ones too, like MICIN, that was used for diagnosing bacterial infections. And then there was XCON, which was used to, it helped configure computer systems.
So that showed that, hey, even if we can't make an AI that can do everything a human can do, we can still make AIs that are incredibly useful for certain tasks.
Yeah, they were proving that AI could actually have a real impact on the world.
Definitely. But these expert systems, they still had their limitations.
Right, of course, of course. The big thing was they relied on these pre-programmed rules.
Like a set of instructions.
Yeah, basically. So they were good at what they were trained to do, but they couldn't really learn from new information or adapt to situations that were outside their, like, area of expertise.
I see. So they were kind of inflexible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of what led to another one of those AI winters.
Oh, right. The second AI winter in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yep, that's the one.
Seems like AI has had this kind of roller coaster ride throughout its history.
Some ups and downs, that's for sure.
But now it feels like AI is having a major moment.
Oh, yeah, a big one. This AI renaissance we're in, it's really exciting.
So what changed? What happened to bring AI back into the spotlight?
Well, a bunch of things came together at the right time. Like, first of all, we suddenly had access to massive amounts of data.
Big data, as they call it.
Exactly. I mean, the internet just exploded, and we were generating all this digital information, text, images, videos, everything you can imagine.
So like AI suddenly had all this food to eat, all this information to learn from.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But data alone wasn't enough. We also needed better algorithms, something that could actually make sense of all that data.
And that's where neural networks come in, right?
Bingo. Especially deep learning, which is a type of neural network. These algorithms are they're kind of inspired by how the human brain works with all these interconnected layers that can learn complex patterns.
So instead of those pre-programmed rules, these neural networks could actually figure things out on their own based on the data they were fed.
Right. They could learn and adapt. And that was huge.
So deep learning really changed the game for AI.
Oh, yeah, it was a game changer for sure. But there was one more piece of the puzzle, one more thing that was needed to really make this AI renaissance happen.
What's that?
Computing power. We needed computers that were powerful enough to actually handle all this data and run these complex algorithms.
And thankfully, that's when we started to see, like, those super powerful GPUs.
Yeah. The ones that were originally designed for video games?
Oh, right.
Those GPUs turned out to be amazing for deep learning because they could handle all the parallel computations that are needed.
So in a way, gamers accidentally helped fuel the AI revolution.
It's funny how things work out sometimes.
It is. So all these things came together, big data, better algorithms, and powerful computers. And that's what sparked this AI renaissance.
And it led to some incredible breakthroughs.
Yeah, like that ImageNet challenge back in 2012.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
Can you remind us what happened there?
So basically, there was this team from the University of Toronto led by Jeffrey Hinton, and they developed this deep learning model for image recognition.
Okay.
And it just blew everyone away. It was so much better than anything that had come before.
So that's when people started to realize, wow, deep learning is the real deal.
Yeah, it was a turning point. Suddenly, AI could see and understand images in a way that had never been possible before.
And that obviously had huge implications for all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about self-driving cars, medical imaging, facial recognition. All of that was suddenly within reach.
And then there's AlphaGo. That was another big moment.
Oh, for sure. This was in 2016, and AlphaGo, which was developed by DeepMind, it actually beat Lee Sedol.
Who was?
He was one of the best Go players in the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Go is this ancient board game, super complex, really strategic. So for an AI to beat a human champion at Go, it was a huge deal.
Like, okay, AI is really starting to catch up to human intelligence in some pretty amazing ways.
Exactly. And what made AlphaGo so special was that it used reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement
Yeah,
learning.
it's this technique where an AI learns through trial and error, kind of like how humans learn.
So it keeps trying different things and gets feedback on what works and what doesn't.
Right. And over time, it gets better and better at whatever it's trying to do.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about feeding AI tons of data anymore. It's also about letting it learn from experience.
Exactly. And reinforcement learning has led to some big advances in AI, not just in games like Go, but also in robotics, finance, healthcare, all sorts of areas.
Wow. So AI is not just getting smarter, it's also learning how to learn.
And it's not just about games and robots anymore. We're also seeing incredible progress in how AI understands and generates human language.
Oh, yeah. That's something I've been really curious about. What's happening in that area?
Well, one of the biggest things is the development of these large language models like GPT-3.
GPT-3, I've heard of that, but what is it exactly?
Basically, it's a type of AI that's trained on massive amounts of text and code, like
Yeah.
an insane amount of data. And what's amazing is that it can generate human quality text, translate languages, write different kinds of creative content, and even answer your questions in a pretty informative way.
It sounds like we're getting closer and closer to that sci-fi idea of AI that can talk to us and even create art.
It's getting there for sure. These language models are showing us just how good AI can be at understanding and generating human language. It's kind of blurring the lines between, human communication and machine communication.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. But it's not all about these futuristic scenarios, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, AI is already having a real impact on our everyday lives.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. AI is everywhere these days. Think about the personalized recommendations you get on streaming services or virtual assistants that help you manage your schedule. It's all powered by AI.
So even if we haven't achieved artificial general intelligence yet, AI is already changing the way we live and work in countless ways.
And it's only going to get more integrated into our lives. It's not just a futuristic concept anymore. It's a reality that's shaping our present.
And with all these advancements, it makes you wonder, what's next? What does the future hold for AI? And what does it mean for us?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It's kind of crazy to think how far AI has come, from those ancient myths to, like, all the amazing stuff that's happening now.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It really has. But of course, the big question is, where does it go from here? What's the future of AI?
Well, there's a lot of excitement and buzz around this idea of artificial general intelligence or AGI.
AGI, yeah, that's like the ultimate goal, right?
In a way, yeah. It's the idea of an AI that's as intelligent as a human, but not just in one specific area. Like, it can think and learn and adapt to all kinds of different situations.
So not like those expert systems we talked about earlier that were just good at one thing.
Exactly. AGI would be a huge leap forward, something that could actually reason and solve problems across all sorts of domains, just like a human.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about. Like,
Mm.
what would a world with AGI even look like?
It's hard to even imagine, but some people think AGI could help us with some of the biggest challenges we face. Like, imagine AI collaborating with scientists to cure diseases, or coming up with solutions to climate change,
Wow, that would be amazing.
or even just personalizing education so every student can learn in the way that's best for them.
It sounds like AGI could unlock some incredible possibilities.
Yeah.
But I guess there are also some concerns about the risks, right? I mean, if AI gets that smart, that powerful.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We have to be really careful about how we develop and use AI, especially as it becomes more advanced.
So what are some of the things we need to be thinking about?
Well, first and foremost, safety and reliability. I mean, we need to make sure these AI systems do what they're supposed to do and don't cause any harm.
That's a good point. We've already seen examples of AI systems making mistakes or like behaving in ways that we didn't expect.
Exactly. So we need to develop really robust ways to test and validate these systems, and we need to be able to understand how they're making decisions.
So transparency is important too.
Oh, absolutely. If we're going to trust AI to make decisions, especially in areas like healthcare or transportation, we need to be able to look under the hood and see how it's working.
And what about the impact on jobs? I mean, a lot of people are worried that AI will take away their jobs.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. And it's true that AI can automate some tasks that are currently done by humans, but throughout history, we've seen that new technologies also create new jobs.
So it's more like a shift in the types of jobs that are available.
Right. The key is to adapt and prepare for these changes. We need to focus on education and training programs that help people develop the skills they'll need in an AI-powered world.
So it's about embracing the opportunities that AI creates and making sure everyone has the chance to benefit from this technology.
Exactly. The future of AI is really in our hands. It's up to us to shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
That's a great point. I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've covered so much in this deep dive, from the history of AI to the incredible possibilities and challenges that lie ahead.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. And we hope you've enjoyed it too.
Mm.
Remember, the future of AI is something we're all creating together. So let's make it a future we can all be proud of.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.